Today, we're going to talk about the importance of having a mission statement as a creator or influencer and how clarifying your vision and values will help you grow your audience and your bank account. I'm Justin Moore. Welcome to Creator Wizard, your step-by-step guide to the business of being a creator. In this video, you're going to learn the difference between a mission statement, a vision statement, and a value statement, why doubling down on your content niche and specific expertise will help accelerate your follower growth, and how solving your audience's problems with your purpose will help you make more money. Before we get started, don't forget to click the link down below to get a downloadable glossary of over 40 influencer marketing buzzwords, acronyms, and lingo that every creator should know. So today we're going to be speaking with Josh Constine, who is the principal investor and head of content at SignalFire. Welcome, Josh.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to get to talk about creators, my favorite topic.
Absolutely. So, you spent a big chunk of your career covering startups of all sizes at TechCrunch. And now that you're a venture capitalist, one of your areas of focus is the creator economy. And so I'm wondering if you could start off by talking about what it is about this space that excites you.
The passion of people to create a profession of their own fulfillment, of their own desire, that to me is what makes the creator world so interesting. We see this enormous percentage of people saying that now they want to grow up to be YouTube stars instead of astronauts. And I think really there's been this large scale awakening of people's consciousness around what they want to do with their lives. People realize that they don't end up on their deathbed saying, all those things I could have owned. It's all those things I could have done, the things that they actually want to spend their time doing. And that means finding a job that's actually fulfilling, which has been very difficult to find these days. And so I think when people see their heroes being able to turn their passion into their profession, make a living off of their art, they say, man, I wish I could do that too. And I truly believe that everyone somewhere inside of them has something amazing to share. Maybe it's a one-hit wonder song. Maybe it's an incredible blog post and that'll be the end of it. Some people, it could be an entire career of videography. But I think everybody deserves that chance to get up on the world stage and provide something to the world that only they can make.
Absolutely. And SignalFire released some interesting proprietary research in late September. It was this really interesting study around how many creators there are now, right? And you had a top line number of something like almost 50 million. And I think it was like 2 million professional creators and something like almost 47 million amateur creators. So talk a little bit about, it seems like there's so much diversity amongst the different types of creators. Like before you would think, oh, it's like a YouTuber, that's a creator, right? But there's so many other different types of ways in which people are making a living creating content, creating projects, things like that. So can you talk a little bit about that research project that you did and what led to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we did was we wanted to map out this creator economy startup ecosystem because we truly believe that if this is the fastest growing segment of small businesses, there will be an array of incredible and massively valuable startups that are built to serve those creators. And so when we did this big research project, what we found was that there was almost 47 million amateur creators and over 2 million professional creators out there on the web that are basically making money either part-time or full-time from their creatorship, not just posting content online. And that includes about 500,000 Instagram professionals, 300,000 on Twitch, over 1 million YouTube professional creators, and then on Instagram for amateurs, there's over 30 million creators that are making some part-time income from this industry. And what we found when we looked at the overarching trends going on with the creator economy was that there was this 3 phases, these 3 layers through history that have really defined how the creator economy has worked. So let me lay those out for you. So step 1 was the foundational media platforms. These are the big social networks that everyone knows and loves. And originally, creators started to grow on these because people were looking for great content, and they found that as long as they made content that was both brand safe, something that brands would be interested in advertising on those social networks next to, and platform safe, the platforms didn't think it violated their policies, they could start to earn a little bit of money off of their ad views, off of their reach, like on YouTube. But what happened was that as the influencer world grew and as the followings of those creators grew, they've started to pull in this influencer marketing, and we saw the rise of influencer marketing. And there, brands were again paying creators who were brand safe to do product placement, sponsored content, and use the reach that they've built up on these platforms to distribute that content in exchange for money. And so like I said, the first step was you build the platforms, you build an audience. The second step was you monetize that audience. But the third step I think is most interesting, and that's where we are today. And that's with creators becoming their own businesses. Because they've built these giant fandoms and there's been this proliferation of new tools to help them monetize, they're starting to be able to move their fans off of the core social networks into either niche social networks or owned properties where they can earn a lot more than just a few cents per ad view. And that includes, platforms like Patreon, but also opportunities for shout outs like Cameo, selling merchandise through apps like Fourth Wall. And there's just been this explosion of new tools to help them. And instead of having to appeal to the lowest common denominator, be totally brand safe and kind of sterilized and boring, instead creators can make content that's just for a specific niche audience. And that unlocks a lot more creativity because they don't have to conform to what's mainstream and popular. They can make just what resonates with those biggest fans because they can earn a lot more per fan through tipping, patronage, merchandise, and these other streams. And what's really great about that is it unlocks a few other things. One is that creatorship is no longer reserved for just the previously financially stable. Because it used to take so long to build up an audience on social networks before you could really start monetizing, it was really only the avenue of people who either had a ton of free time, like kids, or people who already had financial backing. But because of things like TikTok and these new algorithms, which can launch somebody to popularity, as long as they make a great piece of content, it doesn't matter how many followers they already had, they can make a big following overnight, and that unlocks creatordom for underrepresented minorities and the financially underprivileged and people who we traditionally haven't seen be creators as much in the past. Plus, what you also get with that is the rise of diverse representation, which is so important. We've seen this movement in Hollywood. People want to see all sorts of different looking people on the screen, and we're finally seeing that with creatordom too. And now every single subculture, every social justice movement, every sexual preference, every type of hobby and interest gets their own subculture. And that is a win for the public because that means that no matter what you love, there's somebody making content that will exemplify and deepen that love.
Super fascinating. And I think, with this evolution of creators starting their own businesses, and potentially bringing some of their fans to some of these other sites or apps or whatever else they're selling, patronage, that kind of thing, comes a little bit more of a responsibility to act like a business, right? Like, it's less so, okay, like, needing to game the algorithm on this platform that where I rose to fame, but now they're needing to think like a real business. And so, creators are quite similar to startups in that sense, right? Because in order to succeed, they need to think very clearly about kind of the customers or maybe their followers that they're trying to serve, right? And so one of the things I thought we could discuss today was mission statements and how powerful that can be to creators. And so I wanted to just quickly first discuss the difference between a mission statement, a vision statement, and a value statement, because I hear people kind of get those mixed up quite a bit. And so wanted to quickly throw out a definition. So according to Lumen Learning, a vision statement is a statement of an organization's overarching aspirations of what it hopes to achieve or to become. So their examples were Disney. Their vision is to make people happy, right? And IKEA is to create a better everyday life for many people, right? Whereas a mission statement, so the vision statement describes where the organization wants to be in the future, but a mission statement describes what the organization needs to do now to achieve the vision, right? So their examples are Honest Tea. So they want to create and promote great tasting, healthy, organic beverages. That's their what they need to do now to achieve that vision. And JetBlue Airways was to inspire humanity both in the air and on the ground. And lastly is the value statement. And essentially this is, what they term a code of ethics, right? So how are we going to act to be able to achieve both the mission and the vision? So laying all those out there, you had kind of an interesting perspective on like how you think through these things when you previously have worked with startups or perhaps some of SignalFire's portfolio of companies, how you help them think through that kind of thing. So can you talk a little bit about how you think that applies and can apply to creators?
Absolutely. So first, just to think about this shift that's happening with creators, they're moving from being artists to being founders. Traditionally, 100 years ago, if you wanted to be an artist, all you had to do was play guitar. You'd play a good guitar and you could become super famous. But eventually, you had to become a radio personality. You had to go on the Ed Sullivan Show, be on TV, become an actor, shoot music videos, become a videographer, a cinematographer. Then eventually, with the advent of the internet, you needed to become a community manager, a data scientist to make sense of all that data. You had to design merchandise and even be an engineer to run all of these systems that you're working with, and a product manager to be able to cobble together all these different tools. And so the role of the creator has really changed, and it's become one of actually being a team builder, because it's very rare to find all of these skills within a single person. And that means you need to convince people to join your creator club or your production studio the same way that a founder of a startup needs to convince employees to come join their company. And what you have to do that is convince them that there is an incredible payday or an incredible opportunity on the horizon. And that's when these vision statements, these value statements, that's where these come in. Because if you're a creator, you need to recruit people not only because they think there's going to be a payday in the future, but because you're actually doing something beneficial to the world, that you're creating that kind of diverse representation, that you're serving some subculture that's never had content made for it, that you're talking about important issues that maybe the mainstream media isn't talking about. And I think that that's what's those kind of statements, if you can roll those into your value statement, which I think of as like how you act, your mission statement, which is what you want that acting to bring you, and the vision statement, which is where that will carry you in the long term. I think if you put those all together, you'll be able to attract people to join your creator team. And that's really critical if you want to be able to succeed. But when I talk to our startups, I don't actually think about it in terms of vision, values, and mission. I think about it in the form of problem, solution, and evidence. So, I was the editor at large for TechCrunch for 8 years. I wrote 4,000 blog posts. I was the most cited technology journalist from 2016 to 2020. And this is the format that I found was the most successful for pitching just about anything. Whether you're pitching your boss on why you should lead a project, investors about why they should fund your startup, or why someone should join your team, this was the rubric that I think worked the best. So you first start off with the problem. This is where you want to drive home the emotional resonance of why what you're building or creating even matters. Because if you jump in right with your identity, who you are, an introduction, or talking about what you make, your solution right away, people won't understand why they need it. And if they're not the exact target audience, it's going to fly right over their head. So first off, frame who is this for? Who has the problem? What's broken about the world? What's missing in the content space that you want to fill? And when you do that, you're going to make people feel like, man, why is this missing? Why doesn't this exist? I wish this did. And that's when you hit them with the solution, where you talk about what you're making to fill that gap, and why what you're making is exponentially better, not just a linear innovation on top of what came before it. Because network effects and the cost of switching can be really intense and make it so people don't want to switch to a new product or join and follow a new creator. And so you have to show them you're not just a little better, you're much better than what came before it. But at the end of the day, ideas are a dime a dozen. There's a million people wanting to jump into being a creator. It's obviously become one of the most popular professions. Every kid wants to be one. And so you're going to need to differentiate. And that's where the evidence comes in. This is where you talk about why you are the right person to lead this project, be this creator, or run this startup. So you might talk about why, you have incredible experience that taught you exactly what you need to do, or you understand the customer or the target audience or the demographic you're trying to reach. It's when you talk about how you have these skills that you put together that let you, do the videography yourself, or be able to do this affordably, or you make your own music, or you do your own dances and design your own choreography. You're talking about what it is that you make specifically and what skills you bring, but also your support. Who's on your team? Who's invested in you? What's your traction? How many views or followers do you already have? And why is nobody else going to be able to copy you on going on this journey? But there's one more really important part part to any great story, and that's the superhero origin. People want to know why you have a chip on your shoulder and you're never going to quit, especially when it comes to creators. So many creators quit. You know this. It gets tough, especially if the views don't flow in right away, to just quit and slink back into your bedroom and not want to make content anymore. And so you need to have that superhero origin story that tells why you will never quit. And so that might be a formative experience for your youth. I was like, oh, you really wish that your family had this little bit of extra money, or you guys always made these funny videos on Sundays together and you wish that the whole world got to see them, or that you felt like you looked on screen, you didn't see anyone who looked like you, and you felt like your kind of people deserve to be on the screen too. That's the kind of chip on your shoulder that's going to make you a creator that will never quit, that will get through the hard times and will yourself to succeed. And that's what every creator really needs.
Super interesting. So one of the things that I think creating these vision, mission, value statements and kind of this problem solution structure is it makes you think a lot more deeply about what you don't do, the content you don't make, or the brands that you won't partner with, right? I think as a creator, this means picking a content niche, right? That's like very well defined, not super broad. Why do you think that this tactic can help creators grow their following? Because I think a lot of people are concerned about just going niche because they don't want to limit their potential audience,
Totally. It seems like the path to stardom is always through the most mainstream, accessible, lowest common denominator, least offensive content. But what you start to realize is that there is an unlimited amount of that on the internet. There is so much content that if you're just another piece out there, no one's going to care about it. What you need to do is have something that makes you special. And one of the ways to do that is to go niche to win. So instead of trying to compete with every other creator in the world for that big pot of average users, find some specific group which you know better than anybody else. You're part of that subculture. You've lived those experiences. And when you make content for them, not only are you going to understand better what they want, you're going to be able to make jokes that land that are going to be esoteric, inside jokes. And that's what people crave. They want a sense of affiliation. They want to feel like they're part of a club with a creator. And when you're a niche creator making something that your friends won't understand, it's even funnier to you. And you become even more invested in that person because they're also irreplaceable. There's no alternative. There's nobody else who makes content just like them. So you can't just scroll on and assume you'll find somebody else. You want to keep track of them so you don't lose them. And so people really want to follow on to those niche creators. Plus, they seem a lot more relatable because they're not making the content for everyone. They're kind of speaking directly to you. It's a lot more intimate. And it means that when they make that content specifically for you, you're going to actually be more willing to open your wallet and say oh, I'm not just going to give them a second of my time. I'm actually going to buy a piece of their merchandise or subscribe to their Patreon or do something that actually earns them money. And when you do that, you're also tying yourself even more deeply into that creator's identity. You're wearing that t-shirt, you're going to be talking about it because if you're spending money on it, you're probably talking about it. And it's that kind of word of mouth that can really grow. And so while you might not end up with the same, huge number of followers as if you went with just a totally, sterilized generic type of content, you'll find that your followers love you even more and might be worth a lot more than those fair weather fans of some bigger creator.
Yeah, super interesting. And just as an anecdote, I think a lot of brands these days have found that partnering with creators in niche content verticals perform really well, right? Because so for example, we've partnered with a telecommunications company who has seen a lot of success in the FIRE community, early, financial independence, retirement early. And so they've partnered with a lot of these FIRE, and they're just a cell phone carrier, right? So it's and yet you would think, oh, that's the highest level funnel you could get in terms of marketing, right? But, that just goes to show you that even being a niche creator, there's lots of brands who want to partner with, influencers who are making very, very specific types of content. So that absolutely resonates for sure. And I thought it might be kind of fun, just kind of as a closing note here, to get a kind of tactical, talking about how this can help creators. And you were actually helping me through my mission statement for Creator Wizard. I had posted on Twitter some initial ideas, and with your help, we had landed on We exist to help creators quit their traditional jobs and earn reliable income through the content and communities that they love. And what I had initially posted was definitely not that. It was much more broad, and it wasn't very specific, and it didn't feel tangible, and so I really appreciate your help on that, by the way. And so if you had to think of like a vision statement for me, something of like the larger purpose, what would you think in terms of what my where I should be headed there?
Yeah, these statements are so important because when you have a tough day, if you wake up and you read that mission statement back to you, I hope you read that one and you think like, I am energized to get back in front of the camera because what I'm doing does matter to someone. I'm helping people achieve that financial independence. And I think, the vision statement is to go along and to think about how can you make personal fulfillment or professional fulfillment just the status quo, that instead of it being this this like hard to attain thing that like only the luckiest like creators or the most successful or the most privileged people end up with that like happy and fulfilled job where they feel like they have a real purpose every day, to democratize access to fulfillment. I think that is the real concept. The vision for you is that you're going to help not only make this accessible to the to the experts, the most talented people, the people who can make anything, but some people who don't necessarily have all the natural advantages. You still want to make this education so available that you're democratizing access to personal fulfillment.
One of the interesting things, when I started the channel was trying to figure out who my audience is, right? Like, is it the creator who really wants to quit their job, quit their 9 to 5 and dive in and be a full-time creator? Or is it a hobbyist creator who is enjoying a couple extra $1,000 of monthly income or something like that? And I think really what I landed on is like, you got to some degree, you have to pick a lane as a creator. Cause like you said earlier, there's lots of people on YouTube, especially talking about, oh, here's how to make the best thumbnail, or here's how to, get the most, get your first 10,000 subscribers and this kind of thing. And so, that really helped me in the beginning when trying to figure out, my content schedule and what I was going to talk about, because it was like, the decision was kind of already made for me, right? Because I decided, okay, I'm only going to talk about the business side of being a creator. That's it. I'm not going to talk about anything else. I'm going to talk about this, and that's my lane, right? And then even to take that a step further, it's like, okay, well, now that I'm talking about the business of being a creator, that 47 million amateur creators that you talked about, there's a huge percentage of people who are like amateurs. They're very interested in this. Maybe they're hobbyists, maybe they're kind of more like prosumer creators, where they're making some money, some meaningful income that they have to pay taxes on, right? So I really love all this discussion because I feel like when creators go down this path to really be more intentional, more purposeful about the types of content they're making, who they're serving, it can really help clarify your content calendar and your schedule. It's like, oh, well, if I know that I'm serving this person, well, maybe I should I've even gone so far as to say I'm serving creators who have between 10,000 followers and 150,000 followers on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. That's like what I'm thinking right now is like so I don't know if that's too specific, but it's like I'm trying to be, and maybe that'll evolve, but I'm trying to be as specific as I can.
Yeah, everybody needs to find that lane for themselves. And we did that with our venture fund, SignalFire. We're this $500 million venture fund. There's tons of venture funds out there, but we figured out what is the problem that we wanted to solve. And that was that founders spend so much of their time, 70% of their time often recruiting and hiring people. Just as we talked about, building a team is one of the most important things because you can't have all the skills in a single person. And so we designed all these technologies and built this whole team specifically to help with recruiting. We crunch 500 billion data points. We can run lists of the top 100 people in any position that are the most likely to leave their job. And we provide that to our portfolio companies because we know that was one of the biggest problems for them. And when we provided that solution, suddenly we saw so much more interest come to us. And similarly, when we said we wanted to get deep into the creator economy, and we funded a few startups in this space like Carrot, which is a credit card for influencers so that they can pay for their production shoots before they get their revenue coming in from their ad views or their sponsorships, or Face Rig, which lets you wear sort of a animated avatar over your face while you're live streaming. We really believe in this space, and so we wanted to create this kind of research to show that this is our lane. And if you are a creator economy company or you need help with recruiting as a startup, SignalFire is your fund. And I think it becomes so much easier to know who to hire, what content to make, how to talk about yourself when you really drill down and crystallize what is at the core of your identity and your purpose. And I think whether you're doing that as a creator, it's not just about a business, and that can be something as simple as, I want to delight people who love Dungeons and Dragons, but that's a big enough niche in this world, and those people, there's enough of them that if they love you deep enough, they will make a incredible business for you, and you can turn that passion into a profession. And so it's really about just finding what is your spot in the world, how can your uniqueness in our species add to the collective intelligence, the collective content and entertainment of our whole world.
Absolutely love it. Super fantastic, Josh. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And so how can people follow you or find out more about SignalFire?
Yeah, absolutely. Would love to get to talk to any of you. If any of you have questions, you can hit me up on Twitter at Josh Constine, or at my Substack. It's my newsletter at constine.substack.com. I reply to all my replies and my comments. You can hit me up there and I will respond to you, even if you just want to pitch me something. And if you're interested in, if you're a creator economy startup or really any great startup with an incredible vision and you want help with recruiting specifically, that's SignalFire's superpower. Come to us, signalfire.com, or just search me out. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But most importantly, I really hope that each of you just finds your purpose, finds what makes you feel fulfilled, because the life is too short to go about your life doing something you don't love.
So I hope you enjoyed the interview. It would mean so much to me if you shared this with another creator who you think this video might be helpful. And please subscribe, hit that notification bell to be alerted every time I upload a new video. And please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or future video ideas, and you are one step closer to becoming a creator wizard. Don't forget, if you want insider tips on how to grow your business as a creator and diversify your income, click the link in the description to join our free newsletter. You'll get exclusive videos, worksheets, and insights on the influencer marketing landscape, access to special product discounts, first look at upcoming courses, and more.